it's your girl, Deshonda Carter, but you can call me DC. Thanks so much for tuning in today to my show, When the Blue Comes Off. Sit back, relax, take notes, do what you like, and let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for my very special guest, Miss Danielle Rochester. Hey, Danielle, how are you?
Hey, hello.
So listen, thank you for being my guest on When the Blue Comes Off. We love that you took the time out to come and chat with us about all the amazing things that you do for the community and your entrepreneurial skill set. So first, we're going to jump right into what you do when you wear that blue. So Danielle, tell the people about what it is that you do.
Wow. When I wear the blue, I wear so many hats in that one blue uniform. I am a community affairs officer in Harlem, and I also do investigations, which entails, anything, reports or incidents that we get. I dive into, the background of it, and is this valid for us to move forward, to for charges or anything like that, or not even. Sometimes we could deal with things in-house instead of dealing with it on a law enforcement or criminal level. A lot of times I've been bringing to the table a lot we've been bringing to the table a lot of finding out how we can mitigate situations or incidents without them going into a criminal aspect.
So now, now, just to clarify for our listeners, you are affiliated with the CUNY police force and not the NYPD, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
22 years.
With CUNY?
Yes.
So, what's the difference, or what do you feel it's like working in a college atmosphere? Because some people may write that off to say, oh, she's not really doing any police work, or it's not as difficult, right? Because, they don't tend to respect different components of law enforcement, right? Because there's different genres of law enforcement. What kind of vibe do you get when you tell people I work for CUNY Police? Do they respect it, or what do you think?
It's funny that you asked that, and of course you would know. No, they don't respect it, but I'm okay with that. I know when you think about blue, right? You think about the departments that come to mind offhand is corrections, NYPD. So when I tell people I'm with CUNY Police, they're like, "Huh? Well, like, what's that? Y'all don't do nothing." And we do the same job that NYPD does. We actually, and it also depends on what campus you work at, right? Because a lot of some campuses are not as law enforcement geared as others. Like you might have some small satellite schools that they don't have a lot of crime, or there's really nothing going on a law enforcement level, but those officers are there just in case. For me, I work in a very large open campus, so we not only deal with the inner community, we deal a lot with the outer community. And with open campuses, sometimes those crimes or whatever going on the outer community falls into the college community, because people that are involved in those things don't know the difference. It can be pretty much like across the street from one another, the line. So a lot of people wouldn't even recognize that. But it entails a lot. Actually, the difference from us for NYPD is really no difference. We can't do search warrants, and stop and frisk is no longer, but we couldn't do that, right? So those are the only two differences from NYPD. We do our own arrests, we do our own investigations, and where I'm at my command, we actually work very, very closely with the NYPD. I've done cases with Queens Narcotics. I've done cases. I deal with a lot of sexual assault cases. I work with sex crimes a lot. So we do just as much work as them, and I've been recognized from the Detective Benevolent Association for working with cases closely with them. So that shows you that there are some officers and some commands that do respect us just as well, because they see that the work that we put in.
That's great. That's amazing. Now, you said back to the 22 years. What made you go into this line of work?
I fell into it, to be honest. I was very young. I was 22 and I had my son at 19. And I was just looking for a job. I was looking for a job because I was trying to get on my feet, trying to realize that if I didn't, get into this workforce and want to become this responsible parent, my generational curses would have continued. So my stepfather and one of his best friends, I call him my uncle, they was like, well, why don't you get into security? So they told me the process of getting my security license and everything, and they had me go to this private security company. And at the time, City Tech was hiring contract guards because they didn't have enough officers. So that was my place to report. So I was there for a while, and my company went under. And the lieutenant, the sergeant, and one of the corporals became my mentors. And they was like, we love you. This is the process to do the next step. And that next step was actually another security level, but inside of the department, but as a city worker. They were starting this program called Campus Security Assistant. And I was like, I didn't have my driver's license, girl. So they was like, this is what you need to do. I failed a test 3 times, so I couldn't work. I remember going in the paper and just looking for a job and crying, like, I need a job, I need a job. My mom took me to public assistance, and I remember sitting there, and the lady treated me I don't believe she was treating me, but her attitude was just nasty.
Right.
And I got up and ripped the paper up, and I was like, I don't need you. And my mother was like, girl, you bugging? You better sit down. And I was like, nah, I'm good. You know what? Put my son on your case until I can get on my feet. But I don't want that. And I walked out. 2 days later, the lieutenant called me and said, listen, I really want you here. When is your next driving test? And it was about a month maybe. And he said, this is what I'm going to do for you. They just started this program, so I have some leeway. I'm going to hire you. But if you don't pass that test, you won't have a job. So I went it was stress. I was so, thankful though. I went on that test. I completed the test. I didn't know if I passed or failed. I just started crying in the car. The man was looking at me like I'm crazy. So I shortly explained to him what was going on. And he was like, it's okay. You passed. And I started in that position, which is security. It was basically they assist the officers. They do the less law enforcement work, the work that the officers, can't do. So I was in that position for 5 years. And then they was like, hey, we need you going to the next step. You've been here. You shouldn't be in this level forever. We need you to become an officer. And they pushed me to become an officer. And it was the best thing that they had done for me. But at the time, I wasn't looking to be a law enforcement officer. I didn't know nothing but the streets. I'm going to be honest with you. So it was a life turner. And I'm thankful and thank God that he opened my eyes to trust those mentors to guide me, because it's the reason where I am today.
And that just leads me to this question. By you having mentors and having people see the good in you, that they pushed for you, they pushed you through, do you find that today that mentality is still in existence in the overall masses?
It should be. I think everybody needs a mentor. I still have mentors, and actually two out of 3 of those people are still my mentors. I call them my second mom. Mm-hmm. I call them when I need guidance, whether it's they're both retired. I call them when I need guidance on the job, and they know me so many years that they, pretty much know my life. So I call them when I'm going through personal stuff too. We don't know everything, and I believe that we know just as much as we know. That's how come we're as far as we are, and it's a limit to that, right? It's a limit to our knowledge. So you need somebody there to guide you, whether they know a little bit more or a lot more. But it takes the individual to be able to open their eyes, open their mind and their heart to be able to take that guidance. Because you can have mentors all day, but if you're not listening to them and you're not trusting them, you're going to be stagnant.
Right. But that's where you come in the field that you're in, because you work with the community. Like, how does that make you feel? Do you see yourself in a lot of the community now?
Yes,
Do you see
yes.
those young girls that's out there, that's like, you just want to snatch them up and, like, get over here? Like, what's that like working for you? How's that?
It's interesting, because I believe I bring a different dynamic to my department, and I've been where I'm at in Harlem for 3 years. So I've only been in this community affairs role for 3 years. And I bring a different dynamic because I'm actually working in the community that I was raised in. So when I'm walking around, I don't work in uniform a lot, but either in or out of uniform, I'm getting stopped, or I'm pulling my car over, or telling my partner, yo, pull a car over. That's bro from the block. And I'm jumping out and I'm talking to people and I'm hollering at them, and they like, wow. And he looks at me and he says, you bring a different outlook for me, right? Because I'm seeing how they embracing you. And it's like, wow. And I told them I haven't changed, right? The only thing changes is my clothes. I'm still the person that I am. And I was once them. Actually, in several aspects, I still am them. So when I'm in that community, I'm talking to them. I'm talking to them like I'm outside chilling with them on the block.
Right.
Because I have that, right? I can give that to them, opposed to somebody that's not from the community. They can't approach them like that. They can't speak to them in their language. And a lot of times we can get through to our people better because we know how to communicate with them.
I've always agreed with that's a very important aspect, right? When you take people from different demographics and put them in areas that they have no knowledge about, it's very hard to relate if they've never interacted with these communities before.
Right.
Like you said, it's not necessarily the verbiage, it is the language in itself, right? So the body language, just understanding the movements, the slang terms, right? And vice versa.
Just because Tamika's yelling, that don't mean she want to pop off on you. Tamika's just yelling because she's upset and wailing her arms because, she has a lot going on, and that's the way she knows how to express herself.
Right.
That doesn't mean that she's being aggressive. Yes, it looks like she's aggressive in her mannerism, but for her, that's not a threat to you. But again, being on the law enforcement side and seeing things, sometimes, you can take it as, wait, are you about to, so it's interesting to have the best of both worlds. And I do believe that if they are, because, you can't have, I don't believe that we have enough officers to just work in their communities, right? And so if it's going to overlap, you should definitely partner them with someone from the community that they can learn the culture.
And that's what I'm trying to get at. Like, it shouldn't be just, and I want to be clear in what I'm saying. I'm not just talking about the African American community culture as well.
No, all communities.
Because if you have an African American officer who patrols in a non-black area, they still need to understand how to communicate well. So people don't need to think that it's just about us isolating ourselves to say that no one can communicate with the black community, right? We need to go into the Asian community. We need to go into the Hispanic communities. We need to be able to be a population of human beings that know how to commingle and work and police in each other's areas.
Right. And, me, say if I was to be put in a Muslim community, I would want somebody in my department that I can go to and say, okay, how do I communicate with these people without being disrespectful or without feeling intimidating? Give me that knowledge. I would rather go to one of my partners or somebody in my department instead of going out there making a mistake that wasn't intentional, but it gets blown up, in a different way.
Right.
So I tell, also I'm a part of the LGBTQ community.
Right.
Happy Pride.
Happy Pride, Juma. Yes, I'm Pride.
I do liaison work there too. When I do culture and diversity classes, I do that for the department. I tell them, listen, if you have some questions, come ask me. And if I don't know, I'm going to find out. But I'd rather you ask me what you feel is a stupid question, or if you feel that you just don't know, than you to go out there and make a mistake, and now the department's looking crazy, which you might not even have meant anything, right? But because you don't know, and you may not be willing to learn, but you need to be willing to learn.
Yes,
You know, so
because
I
society
always
has
pick that.
changed. You know, people have to realize society has changed, and there's so many things that can get you in trouble. And I feel like people are also very sensitive. The generations below
I say that all the time. I do
are
say that all the
so
time.
sensitive. Like my youngest son, like he can never, both of my kids, and they're males, can never be me in the stuff that I've done. Like they can't handle the stress and the pressure, these kids. I'm telling you.
Yeah. They can't. They can't. Yeah, I say that to my friends. My son is 27, so I say that to my friends that have kids, and I tell them, like, you have to sit down and talk to your kids. Don't pamper your kids. You know, I understand we have to be cautious of hurting our kids' feelings and doing this, but listen, it builds character. And I'm not telling people to demean their kids, right? But you have to be authentic with them, because when they go out into the world is truly authentic, and it's not in a good way all the time, and they have to have the skin for that.
Right. Right. And that's another problem, though. You know, I feel like I was very blessed, and I'm sure you can relate to this as well. I think our generation pretty much was one of the last generations to have the kind of concept where a village, it takes a village to
Yeah.
raise a child, right? Because when my mom worked 3 to 11s, I was home all day by myself. You know what I'm saying? I would go to school, come home. My mother was at work 3 to 11, so I could have ran the street. I could have, and listen, half the time I ran the street, but I knew when certain people would see me, they would check me like, you know, your mother said you ain't supposed to have no company. So I had to be careful if I was trying to sneak somebody in the house because my next door neighbor was going to tell, or what, you know what I mean? So now a lot of times the younger parents, I think they've gotten so far away from saying, listen, I'm talking to you out of love, right? Because I don't want to see anything happen to your child. As opposed to them
Right.
being retaliatory. What did you say to my child? Don't talk to my child. You got something to say to me. You say you got something to say to my child. You say it to me. People are not receptive to, you know, hearing that, you know, this is what was going on. I brought it to your child. I wanted to bring it to your attention. Or sometimes you may not even be able to bring it to their attention because you may have to correct them in the moment.
Yes. Yes.
You may have to correct them in
so
the
true.
moment.
That's so true. I always say, and it's interesting that you say village. I put up a post the other day on my Instagram page about Dapper Dan, and I don't. Yes, we all know he's an icon, right? But to me, he's just Dap.
Right.
To me, he's just Dap. I'm grateful that he's where he is. I'm so proud of him. But he was part of my village, and I've always talked about my village because it's the reason why I'm here. It's so many people on so many different parts of my life that became my village. And I learned that because my mom was the village to everybody else. My mother was one of those people in Harlem. If you didn't know her, you knew somebody she knew that took care of their kids, fed them, did something, provided clothes, did something for them. That was her. So I grew up seeing a village, right?
Right.
Village helped raising me, and my mother being the village to other people. So I believed in that. Even with my son, when he went to St. Charles, he had basketball coaches, he had mentors, and I used to tell him, like, when they see you, they're going to check you, and if you disrespect them, we're going to have a problem. So even today, when me and my son have conversations, he'll say, ooh, I wish I would have said something like that to an adult. Like, what?
Right,
Disrespecting adults. I don't care if you knew them or not. That wasn't tolerated in my household. My mother and my grandmother didn't play that. And I think that we have gotten away from that. And another thing that elders, right, are like you said, hesitant or even fearful to say something to these kids. Because if the kids is not disrespecting them, then the parents is going to come disrespect them.
Right.
So a lot of it is, let me mind my business because I don't want to deal with the aftermath or just trying to be helpful.
Right. And just a quick story about that, really, really quick. I'm going to try to make it quick because I can be a little lengthy. But I remember these little boys one time when I was living in Brooklyn, they were throwing eggs. I had a dog, Storm, my Rottweiler, and she used to be outside on the front porch of the house. And they were throwing eggs at my house and my dog. So I remember coming outside because I had came from the store and I saw them. So I got in my car and I snatched a little boy up. It was a group of them, but the one little boy was throwing the eggs. And I said, "Where's your mom?" And he said, "She's at work or she was home." So I took him to the mother's house. I mean, to the mother's job. And honey, it was such a altercation about, who was I and why are you bringing him to me? I said, I should have called the police on him. Would you rather me call the police on him and get him locked up than bring him to you and let you know what he did?
Right.
So this is what you mean when you say you got to weigh your interaction with today's youth. And so let me ask you, what do you recommend as a community affairs officer? Like, how do we bridge these type of gaps? Is it something you think we can change? Or is it too far gone?
Anything can be changed. It will take time. But I believe that it can be changed. But I also believe that it starts in the household. It starts in the household where you having these discussions with your kids that Miss Sarah in the building is going to tell me something if you act up. Like you said, your mom was working 3 to 11. These are the conversations we have and say, listen, it's not only me taking care of you, it's us taking care of you. And these people are helping me out. And I dare you to disrespect them, right? You can't tolerate it on your end because once your child sees you tolerating it or you saying, no, you don't have to listen to Miss Sarah. You don't have to listen to the man in the store. You do what you want to do. And I'm your mother. When you start to put that in a child's ear, then they feel fearless, right? They do what they want. They run wreckage, and then they get out of control. And you as a parent are like, what can I do? Well, if you would have allowed your village to step in just a little bit and try to assist you, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But we have to be willing to accept that help and have these conversations with our kids. Like me, I knew that these people were going to check me, and I knew they were my elders, and I knew that my mother wasn't trying to hear me disrespect my elders, whether they were right or wrong, right? If they was wrong, then my mother will handle it. But I had to stay in the child's place to know not to take it upon myself to check Miss Elderly Sarah because I felt that she was wrong on telling me I shouldn't do something. I'm like, okay, no problem. And then I'll tell my mother. And then if it was wrong, my mother say, hey, listen, this is what you're not going to do with my child.
Right.
So I believe it's in the household. Yeah, it can be checked. It can be, changed. It can be changed.
Okay, so now to wrap this part of the segment up, as far as the law enforcement aspect currently and with people going in and having some of the civilians having a negative light in law enforcement, doesn't matter the genre, would you recommend law enforcement to any individual at this time? They come to you and they say, hey, Miss Rochester, I'm thinking about going into law enforcement. What do you think about it?
I have different views on it. I would sit down and speak to them and, hear why they want to do this. And most of the time when a young adult or a child has a vision to be a law enforcement officer, is because they want to make change. And I would encourage it. On the other hand, right, it's so much going on. It's like, you don't want to tell somebody, yeah, do this, and it's the worst thing ever, but it may be the best thing ever. So, like me, if somebody would have told me no, I might have listened, right, because it wasn't in my vision. It wasn't, no, that's not what I want to do anyway. But I have people encouraging me to be what they seen that I can be. And I'm quite sure we was having problems then, right? But I probably wasn't aware of it because I wasn't on that side of it.
Right.
Has it intensified? I think so. But you can get hurt doing anything nowadays. And not even nowadays, at any time, right? So I say, go for your dreams. Don't let the world stop you from doing whatever you want to do. Just because this is happening, that don't mean it's going to happen to you. You just learn how to do your job right, learn how to hold your head and be honorable in what you do, and move forward. Yeah, that's what I would tell somebody. Go for your dreams, whatever it is. I would never shoot somebody down if they wanted to be an officer.
Well, that perfectly leads us into the next segment when we come back about dreams. So, guys, we're going to take a pause right here, pause for the cause, and we're going to come back with Officer Danielle Rochester.
The number you have dialed has been changed. The new number is...
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. So we're here with Officer Danielle Rochester talking about her time that she's working with the CUNY Police Department. And now you know what this is. If you are a fan of the show, you know what we're going to talk about. Entrepreneurship. And right now we're going to share the two, not one, but the two businesses that Officer Rochester is working while she's still working. She's not even retired yet. She's still holding down full-time job and still living her passion and dreams. So let's get into it, Rocky, and talk about your two businesses. Let's talk about the rock. Let's talk about the Rocky Rock with D first. What's that about?
Okay. So Rock with D is all about health and wellness and fitness, and it's interesting how these things come because this came by accident as well. But God makes no mistakes. I was into fitness every so often. A couple years go by, I'm into fitness, and then I'm just living my best life. And then I realized, oh, girl, you got to get back into it. So I've always been back and forth. But in 2016, I lost my grandmother and my mom in 6 days. So I was in a fitness challenge at the time with my friend. And we started in January. I lost my grandmother January 29th, then my mom passed February 4th. So, of course, that fell off the map. We forgot about it. I was going through what I was going through, which had turned into, now I realize, a deep depression and a dark hole that I was falling into. I was scared because I can't identify with that, right? So I was scared that if I had fell into that hole, that I wouldn't be able to get back up, because I had not known of nothing so traumatic. It was kind of like, ooh, it scared me. And I remember having conversations with my wife, and she later told me that it was times that she didn't want to come home, right? Because she was so afraid to see me in the state that I was in. I would come home. Now, I was still working. I didn't really take a lot of time off because I also knew that if I stayed home and just festered in it, it wouldn't be good. So my job was like, you need to take some time. I'm like, nope, I'm good. Actually, I need to do some more work so to keep me busy. So I would go to work, function fine, but come home and then just sit in my living room and look at the wall with a bottle of wine.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife would come home, talk to me, and I'll be talking to her, but I wouldn't really be there. And I remember sitting on the couch with my son one day. He had came up to see me, and I was sitting there with a bottle of wine. And I guess he felt something wrong, and he was like, "Mom, you can't do this." And I was like, what you talking about? He was like, "This is not you. I know Nana's not here, but you got to find a way to deal with this better." And I was like, Kayvon, I'm not feeling good. I'm not I'm not in a good place. I just want to say, yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm good. And he like, yeah, no, Ma, you're not. So him and my wife would have time conversations. And I had later learned that, yeah, they had became pretty concerned about me. So a friend came to me, actually my friend I was in the challenge with, he had mentioned about working out. And I was like, she's like, you need to maybe start working out, getting into working out again, doing something. She was like, how about you get the Peloton bike? Now, a couple of months before that, I had cursed her out for spending so much money on that doggone bike. So here she comes, suggesting the bike to me. And I had looked in it once or twice, so I was like, I'm not spending that type of money. So I remember it clear as day. I was sitting on my couch, and I went online, looked at the bike, bought it, put my phone down, computer, whatever, and just went to sleep. So my wife comes home, so I'm like, I brought the Peloton, Tish. She told me to buy the bike, she said, maybe that'll help me. And she's like, okay, that's a lot of money. You have a habit of spending a lot of money. So that bike better not sit here with clothes on it. I'm like, okay, whatever. Girl, I got that bike, and it was the best thing that happened to me at the time. That's where I started putting my focus towards. Instead of me sitting on the couch crying and drinking a bottle of wine, I had got up a routine that I would get up early in the morning because that was the best time for me because, of course, our schedules is unpredictable. So I would get up, and I still do, 3:30 in the morning, and I work out before work, and I would cry. I would go through every emotion that I needed to go through on that bike. And one day my wife told me, if that bike, I'm still mad that you spent that much money, but if it's going to make you smile like that, keep doing it. And I just created an Instagram page just because somebody suggested it. And I had people starting to reach out to me on my consistency, started eating well. I'm getting into nutrition a little bit. And from what I know now, I started motivating so many people that I didn't even realize it. And I had people, and that's when it was like, oh, you need to get into this fitness. And that's where that came about. I started a fitness line during COVID, towards the end of COVID. And yeah, that's where that came from. And I love it to this day. I have fell off a little bit, but I got my spark back, and I'm getting back into it. Because, I've tried on a pair of jeans and was like, oh, yeah, these don't have no stretch in it, girl. You doing too much.
That happened to me the other day when we were at the Brown Girls Do Network. I put on a blouse, and my girlfriend told me in the video, she's into fitness too. She says to me, the average person would have just watched the video and went about their business, but she's analyzing, and she said, that blouse was a little bit too tight. You need to get back in this gym. I was like, all right, like, you didn't have to just come for me like that, but, But anywho,
we need friends like that. We need friends like that.
Right, she did, and I was in the gym, and we was working on back. We was definitely working on back and arms. I was like, okay, let me get it. But then you contradict yourself because you want to have this fitness, but then you make these good ass cheesecakes with Rocky's goodies. Like, tell the people about your Rocky's Goodies line. Like, how can I eat Rocky's Goodies? But see, I guess you're smart. I eat the cheesecake, and then I gotta go buy the gym attire and go work out. So yeah, okay, cross promotion. I got it. So tell the people about Rocky's Goodies.
I learned about that after, but the Rocky's Goodies, it started way before my workout routines and inspiration. I started that, I was in Harlem. I started that about 15 years ago. And it actually just started me making my mother used to make sweet potato pone. And I put it together and created a pie. And I would just make pies for people. And I wasn't selling them and taking them to work. And then my grandmother, she gave me, it's just me and my cousin that has her cheesecake recipe. And I would make her cheesecakes for people. And I was like, I had sweet potato mix and cheesecake mix left over. I was like, oh, I wonder what happened when I put these together. And I put them together, girl, and it's a nickname for that one is Orgasm. Yeah. So that's how that started. And then I started just doing that. And I had a lady come to me one day and was like, you need to start selling these. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And it was like, yeah. She gave me a blank check. And she was like, so I want one for 3 months. So you need to find out a price. And when you figure out the price, you write it on a blank check. And I'll let you know 2 weeks in advance. And that's how I started really selling them. And from then to now, it would be an only holiday thing, right? Because that would be the only time that I can really put time aside for me to do the orders that I was doing. I would get anywhere from between 75 to 100 orders Christmas and Thanksgiving separately. And I still do it out my home. And I was doing it out my project apartment at the time until I moved upstate. And yeah, it's been growing, and I have decided that I don't want it to only be holiday thing. I want this to be continuous, and it built on the traditions of my mother and my grandmother. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to continue this. The main name of my business is From My Kitchen by Taish. And I wanted people to know that it was coming from my kitchen. I didn't want this fancy name. You know, I wanted to know this is homely. And I sat down with a business marketing person, and I was like, I'm thinking about changing the name, but my LLC is in this. And I said, you know what? Because I also do cooking too. Like, I cook like to my grandmother. So
that's that Harlem in you. That's that Harlem in you, girl.
Yes. I said, I want my sweets to be separate, though. She said, but what are your fans telling you? I said, well, I have a coworker. He named the sweet potato Orgasm. She said, oh, so we need to run with that. So that's where the Rocky's Goodies came from. And I'm in the midst of changing the names to sexual names for all of them. The lemon is Bitter Bitch.
Okay. Is that the one that is that the one that's the lemon Oreo?
That lemon with lemon Oreo crush, yes.
Yes, honey. That was
So yeah, that's where that came from. So that's all my ancestors loved in there, girl.
Well, honey, let me tell you, they must have loved you. That's why it's called, well, that one is Bitter Bitch. But overall, they must have loved you and leaving you those great recipes that you are now able to share with the world, right? And so if I wanted to shop for your products as far as the desserts, now, are you only limited to the Orange County area or to the city area? Like, how do you dispense it? Are you shipping them out yet? Or so, like, how can people
right now I'm limited to New York State with agricultural and cottage laws. Cheesecake, small businesses, I cannot ship outside of New York State.
Okay.
That's just the laws, which I hate, but it's okay. So and that's the reason why I've been going back and forth, right, to have a website. Because I'm like, I don't want to, and I can't ship. Like, I might have people from all over the world looking at this website, and I can't get my products to them. So right now, I just leave it on a personal level. People reach out to me on Instagram. We connect. I send them the list. You know, sometimes they want to give me an idea to do maybe something different or change the crust up for them, which I'm more than willing to do. And we'll get a date that we agree on, and we'll meet. And I get people their cheesecakes. I do it all the time, especially in the holidays. Because I'm upstate and most of my orders come from the city, I deliver the Sunday before the holiday. So I'm baking for 2 or 3 days, and then I'll drive down on Sunday, have a designated meeting spot, and I'm just handing out cheesecakes from the back of my trunk like distributor something. It be looking real weird. Suspect. I be looking real sus, but I don't care.
That's all right. So listen, they was talking about Master P when he was selling his CDs out the back of the trunk, right? And
Yeah,
look where he is
yeah,
now. So being delivering and using the vehicles that you have in front of you and that's
yeah.
obtainable to you, who cares? And that's what we have to get away from, about what someone else is thinking
Oh
about
yeah,
you.
girl.
Girl, please. I know they think I'm
I don't care.
crazy, and I don't care.
Yeah, I know they think I'm crazy, but I don't care. And recently, the little ones that you had, I started doing those for parties or big events. I don't do them personally because I would have people reach out to me and say, "Hey, can I get one or two minis?" And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not a bakery. I don't just have product just sitting around. I can't,
Right.
make just one or two. So the individual ones, I have two different sizes, 5 ounce to 8 ounce. 5 ounce is like a mini cupcake, and the one a little bit bigger than that is maybe about a mini pie size, little thicker though. And I do those for parties or occasions. I have people reach out to me for anniversaries or weddings, and we can come up with a cost, and I do that. So yeah, I'm doing my best to get myself out there. Of course, the job limits me because this summer I had planned to do a couple pop-up shops, and some other things got thrown in my schedule from work, and I had to put a pause on that. But I'm keeping up with it. What I am doing is staying consistent as much as I can, and that's what matters.
Well, you know what, Daniel, I just want to say to you that that's what it's about. Consistency, and we discussed this before, trial and error. We do it. If
Yeah.
something doesn't work, we kind of tweak it until we get it right. And right now, you may not have the time to expand in the market that you want, but consistency is key, and you're doing such a great job with it, because those goodies is just like, you put your foot in them. That's all I'm gonna say, guys. Like, she puts her foot in it. And if y'all see,
Thank you.
once you see Danielle, she tall, so she a big woman. She be in that kitchen mixing up. All right. So, Daniel, please give the people all of your Instagram information, or wherever they can find you, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, so they can reach out to you for both. Some people may be struggling through a fitness journey, and you can give them some moral support, and they can follow you on your page. And of course, we do, Juneteenth is tomorrow. Somebody might say, listen, we're going to be down in Harlem. You got some of them pies, swing on through. Where can they find you?
So for the fitness, it's Rock with D. That'll be ROCKWITDEE on Instagram. And from the cheesecakes, it is FMKBYTAISH. That's FMK by Taish on Instagram. And hit me up on both. Both pages are open. Neither one of them is private. DM me, let's chat. And however I can help somebody, I'm always willing to help somebody. I'm not, of course, a business is about money, but especially with the fitness, if people reach out to me and they're looking for some moral support or for some help, I am all willing to have conversations with people, because I think those conversations need to open up within our community about eating healthy as well. So I'm always here to help.
Well, thank you again for being on the show. Thank you for being inspiration. Continue to do the works that you're doing in the community, because we need more officers like you out there. And again, we're here for you, to support you. So anytime you want to come back, we're here for it. And any parting words that you want to say to anybody?
First, let me thank you for having me. I'm always grateful for when someone's opening up their platform to me, and I appreciate it. So I want to say thank you to you, and much success to you as well.
Thank you.
For everyone else, follow your dreams. Don't believe nobody that tell you that you can't do it. Don't stress when somebody don't believe in your vision. God gave you that vision. They didn't give them that vision. So hold your head high and keep doing what you're doing, even in those hard times. Everything will fall into place.
Those are words to live by. Thank you again, Danielle Rochester, for being on the show. We look forward to following you and wishing you much success in your future endeavors. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and I look forward to bringing you many more, all with positive vibes. Remember, whatever you do it from the heart with love and passion. Stay safe. Talk to you soon.